All right, last part. Here we go. Return of the King. Again, so as I mentioned in the other videos, this is going to be a, spoiler-filled discussion in every single way for all the books. Although this is the third book, so I don't know why you would watch this one if you haven't read the other ones. But regardless, massive spoiler warning. Go read the book if you haven't yet before watching this video. Basically, how this works is I took notes while I was reading, and I'm just going to kind of go over those notes and talk about my thoughts on a more in-depth basis. And I broke it up into like things I like, things I didn't like, and I'll kind of go back and forth. And yeah, let's get into this. Actually, one more note. This book does have the most things that I didn't like, but that's just because there's a lot more to this book compared to The Two Towers and The Fellowship of the Ring. And honestly, I did like it more than The Two Towers, even though I had more stuff I disliked. Some of it's kind of nitpicky and not that important, that's why. Just noting that. And I'll kind of go back and forth as it makes sense to do so. So, first of all, one of my major criticisms of the Two Towers was that I didn't really like the Battle of Helm's Deep. I just had a hard time following it. Again, like I mentioned in the video, that totally could have just been me. I don't know, but I don't know. I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. However, I really enjoyed the battles in this book a lot more, like the like epic grand scale battles. I think they're much better than Helm's Deep and some of the other previous ones. And I think the reason is because in these battles there's a greater focus on individual characters rather than the battles as a whole, which makes it easier to kind of latch onto and understand what is happening for whatever reason. It's easier for me to view the battle through a character's view than kind of be omnipotent and like look at it from above. So yeah. Also, the early book, I don't know why I said the early book, but like the like book, I think it's book 5, right? Like it splits into many different parts. There's Aragorn's group, the Theoden's group, which also includes Pippin's perspective. Oh wait, no, there's Theoden's group and Pippin's perspective, because Theoden's group includes Merry's perspective, not Pippin. Pippin is in Gondor, so he has a separate perspective. And of course there's Frodo's perspective, but that's not this book. So yeah, there's like 3 different viewpoints going on in this one book. But it didn't feel confusing to me. It actually felt very easy to follow for some reason. And maybe I was just more interested in it in this section than I was with Helm's Deep, but they all tied together nicely. I know 3 perspectives is not that much, but compared to like the Fellowship, where we literally had one perspective the whole time, yeah, or even the Two Towers, where we weren't following that many different perspectives, at least not until later. So yeah, I think it just didn't, in Return of the King, it wasn't hard for me to follow. It didn't feel confusing, and it all tied together nicely. And it was easy for me to piece together what was happening when. That's the other thing, is like we kind of are told the same like things are told on the same timeline, and we kind of are like seeing the same events but from different perspectives a little bit, and it all kind of collides into one event at the end, sort of. And I thought that was done brilliantly. It tied together so well, and I really liked it. Also, I really enjoyed, like, when Merry and Pippin are separated, how they kind of long for each other. They kind of, miss each other, their friendship, and having, like, someone like themselves to relate to. Whereas when they're split up, they're both, the only hobbit in their situation, and they both feel alone. And that was really done well. And I just really appreciate their characters more and more. The more I see of Merry and Pippin, the more I like them. And by the end, I'm like completely sold on them as individual characters rather than just, the other hobbits, I guess. So yeah, amazing. And then their reunion was just really nice. Like the build up to that was like we wanted them to see each other again, and finally when they do, it's really nice. And then there's Eowyn, amazing character, also one of my favorite characters in the whole series. Just, I mean, when Tolkien wants to write good characters, he will. And Eowyn didn't have a big part initially, but she was quickly made into a fantastic character. And the scene where her and Mary take down the Witch King was just so satisfying, absolutely brilliant. And also, I like that there was repercussions for that. It wasn't just, oh yeah, we took down the Witch King. No, it hurt both of them, and it wasn't just an easy, oh yeah, that was nothing. No, it really, really messed them up, but they still did it, and it was brilliant. I loved how that was done so much, and it adds valor to the act that it wasn't just an easy thing. Yeah, amazing. I loved it. Honestly, that part was so great. I literally had chills while reading that. And then also the build up to this happening for both of their characters is brilliant. They're both kind of struggling with this like feeling of not being able to contribute and being kind of side casted. You know what I mean? Like put off to the side as lesser. And they both prove that is not the case by taking down the literal Witch King, which was supposed to be Gandalf's fight. So that really shows you how big of a deal this is. And the way that is established, the groundwork before that's done is really what makes it so brilliant. And the after effects, just all around, loved that aspect of the story, and really glad to see Eowyn's part in this. Yeah. And I feel both their turmoil. Like I really, I don't want to say I don't know, but I resonate with Eowyn's turmoil. Yeah, I felt it, even though we didn't, she's a new character, really, compared to like some of the other characters, but there's just a lot of care put into her character, and it's great. And like maybe this is a bit of a controversial. I have such a hard time saying that word sometimes. Maybe it's a hot take or whatever, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm personally a bit disappointed by the lack of female characters, just because it feels kind of unrealistic. It just sometimes I'm like, why are there not more? Just because it feels unrealistic, and but I will say Eowyn does make up for it quite a bit because she's such a fantastic character that is portrayed so deeply and with lots of intention. But yeah, and also here's another reason why I don't like Aragorn that much is I just kind of annoyed me the way he treated her. I get what Tolkien was trying to do because he was trying to have a reason for Eowyn to feel this way, but and it is a valid reason for Eowyn to feel the way that she did, but it made me not like Aragorn that much because he was one of the ones that was just like, you need to be in your place and take care of your people, and I don't know, I was like, come on, Aragorn, you're like, really? Just because it's like I don't know, maybe he understood what she was going through, but to me it kind of came across as um, evident that he kind of saw her as lesser than him. And he's just kind of cold to her. But there's also this part, like maybe that's because he had feelings for her and didn't want to display them to make her hurt more. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Obviously, Aragorn is involved with someone else at this point, so he can't have feelings for someone else in that way. I don't know. Maybe that's why, but still, it's kind of like, geez, dude, chill out. In my opinion, but I liked I liked every part Eowyn was in. One of my favorite characters. Um, let's see if there's any like cons I should talk about. Uh, okay, here's something I'll mention. It was kind of confusing what Elrond's sons came to say to Aragorn when I was reading it. It makes more sense now, but it was kind of like he just random. It felt random. He like I'm playing with this ruler, by the way. I'm just fidgeting with it if you're wondering. But he just kind of like had to talk with these guys and like, okay, this is what I'm doing now. It felt kind of random that his sons showed up, Elrond's sons showed up, and then Aragorn just decided to go to the Ghost Cave now. It just kind of felt out of nowhere. And also, why didn't Aragorn just tell Theoden and Eowyn, like, chill out, I know this place is deadly, I know what I'm doing, it's cool, I'll be fine. But instead, he's just kind of like lets them sit in their worry about him. Can you guess that I'm not the biggest Aragorn fan? I feel like that's such an unpopular opinion, but I just don't vibe with this character that much, especially in the further the story goes along. Like, why didn't he just tell them the plan? Why, I don't get it. Why didn't he just say like, yeah, a long time ago, my ancestors made a deal with these ghosts, and I'm kind of gonna have them make good on their promise, so it'll be fine. No, he just had them sit in their worry. Kind of weird. It kind of felt like Tolkien was trying to add suspense, because if Aragorn told them that, we would have known. But yeah, I kind of think that one missed a little bit for me compared to some of the other points where he had suspense. And I just kind of felt lost what was going on. I was just like, what is happening? What? I just didn't really get it. And yeah, it made me feel better when Mary was like, dude, I'm lost too. I don't know what's happening. It kind of made me think like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to be lost. I just didn't dig that part, honestly. Back to some other parts. So the king things I liked. Things I like. So the death of Theoden, very tragic and beautiful. That's a hard death. That was like I knew it was coming, but it still hit hard. I thought it was done excellently. And also the friendship between Theoden and Merry is great. I love that. I love that Theoden is clearly like you're supposed to like Theoden more than Denethor, but he still has flaws. Like the way he kind of dismisses Merry, even though he let Merry offer his sword or whatever, was it's just kind of like not that cool of a thing to do, but kind of understandable. And he also dismisses Eowyn too, which in my opinion that's even less understandable because I get it, but they weren't really understanding. He wasn't really understanding where Eowyn was coming from. But still, I think that actually makes Theoden's character better. He's not a perfect king. Clearly, even from the get-go, he's far from it. But he does his best. He does this charge and dies doing it. And yeah, it's very tragic and beautiful. And King Theoden is great. I love his character. And then also like Eomer's like charge in the name of death was just very like poignant. Like it just really it felt brutal, you know, like, geez, this dude's just like filled with so much death. He thinks Eowyn's dead at this point too. So dude's lost everybody, and yeah, it that felt dark, and it helps the relief that Eowyn wasn't dead later, and it brightens that even more by showing how like uh, dreadful Eomer feels, and yeah, it was great. And then, kind of like I mentioned before, the contrast between Denethor and Theoden is fantastic. Like they're kind of opposites, right? Uh, Theoden is the king that started off in a bad place and was brought back to his former self, and you know, being a good king. Denethor initially started as like the high and mighty. He's not a king, but you know, he's basically a king. He's a steward, but he's pretty much, there's no difference, right? The stewards are basically kings at this point, just a difference in titles and some other stuff. But Denethor starts as this like high noble steward or king or whatever, but he falls to tragedy, and we see Theoden is charging with his people, fighting. Denethor is locked away, you know, being kind of pessimistic and stuff like that. There's a very intentional contrast that I'm sure many other people have pointed out, but it was I just really appreciate that aspect of the story. Um, and Denethor is a tragic character too, and arguably like the darkest part of the whole story. I mean, dude was gonna burn him and his son, himself and his son alive, which is just, whew, man, that's dark, in my opinion. I mean, I like that's brutal, and yeah, that's rough. But I at the same time I like I shouldn't follow this up with saying how like rough that was, but I kind of understand him, right? Not that he wanted to burn him and his son alive, but his hopelessness is understandable, and his kind of depressive nature, because you know, it's explained very well. It's not a secret. Like he saw these visions, and his worries were basically confirmed. So yeah, and then also his relationship with Faramir is very tragic and painful. Just rough, and it really that adds to Faramir's character too. Like it, you know, yeah, and Faramir kind of goes through like a hopeless state as well, where he's just like, you know, my father doesn't appreciate me. I'm just going to die fighting if that's what he wants. And yeah, I I just love Faramir, by the way, if you didn't know. Um, Also, I like that Gandalf took Pippin seriously when Pippin told Gandalf what was happening with Denethor. I like that Gandalf isn't just like, oh, that's not important. No, Gandalf, uh, in some way respects Pippin. He respects how Pippin handles dealing with Denethor and stuff. Um, Even though Pippin's kind of got himself into this bad situation, and I like that Gandalf knows when to, you know, he knows the right way to act towards Pippin. He knows when to take him seriously, when not to, and yeah, I think that's great. I like how serious Gandalf took what was happening. It 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 really added to the this is dark sort of thing. Like Gandalf's pissed about this. I mean, he should be, but there's like this whole war going on, and this is a concern of Gandalf's, as it I think it should have been. Yeah. Also, I thought Faramir, gosh dang it, I thought Faramir and Eowyn were dead as well. Um, I felt super relieved when they were both revived. I totally thought they were dead. Yeah, I don't really remember what happens to Faramir. I'm gonna keep saying his name wrong. I don't really remember what happens to them in the movies. It's been a while since I've watched the movies, and I don't really remember. So I was like, yeah, they could totally be dead. I don't know. Um, and yeah, again, he did that great. Tolkien is really good at convincing you that characters are dead when they're not. Even if, I mean, maybe some people knew, but that one was especially like I was like certain that they're dead because um, I didn't know. It wasn't like Frodo where I was like, Frodo's not supposed to be dead. Um, but that time I thought they were dead, and that was done well. And I was glad they were revived. Um, yeah. And also at the end, there's a part where um, it's like hinted at that Pippin died. And I was like, what? Is Pippin dead? I mean, he could have been. I don't know. Um, and like Pippin's last thoughts in that scene are like so dark. I totally thought he was dead as well. And Tolkien just really likes to play with your emotions because I thought he was dead, and it's just fantastic. And that scene is very dark. Um, Luckily, he wasn't dead, but yeah. And also, like, the Return of the King is the most brutal of the three. Like, there is a mention of, I hope I can say this, I don't know. I mean, it was in the book. There's mention of, like, chopped off heads and body gore. The orcs literally catapult chopped off heads into the city to torment the people. Dude, that's brutal. I did not remember Lord of the Rings being that brutal. This was my first time reading The Return of the King, but yeah, I always thought like I mean obviously in The Hobbit like things are kind of just like mentioned, but no, that's dark. Yeah, that really shocked me. I was like, whoa, wait a second, what? And then the battlefield is just really bloody and messy and not pleasant. This is not it doesn't feel romanticized. It feels like Tolkien didn't want you to think, "Yay, battle's cool. This is valiant and cool." No, this is like nightmarish, and yeah, I thought that was done really well. And there's like this feeling of rawness that in this book that really just elevates the book, and yeah, Tolkien's just great at portraying feelings. I just I just love the way he portrays feelings. Uh, Not even the feelings. Like, yeah, he's good at portraying the feelings of particular characters, but he's good at portraying like overarching feelings, like the feeling towards this brutal battle, or the feeling of elation at the end of the battle. Stuff like that. Yeah. What a master at writing. Um, so another thing, um, I'm kind of disappointed there wasn't more descriptions of the ghosts. Where they're kind of like this whole thing that is built up about Aragorn getting these ghosts, but yeah, it's just kind of told, which Tolkien's kind of notorious for doing, especially in The Hobbit, where a battle happens and then you kind of hear about it third hand. It's not a new thing, but I kind of just wish we could have like seen more of it. I guess maybe I missed it, but we were just told about it secondhand from Gimli and Legolas. Kind of disappointing. Let's see what else. I guess the other thing I'll mention is that I really missed Aragorn's speech at the Black Gate, which was in the film. I was like really looking forward to that scene, and it's not the book's fault. It's not the book's fault that a later adaptation had that speech, and I was expecting it in the book. But that's just such a pivotal part of the film that I was like, surely it's in the book, but no, it's not, and I really missed it. And that's like, in my opinion, one of the best additions to the films. There is another I have a lot to say about Aragorn regarding the films, and I'll talk about that more later in this video. But I was super surprised it wasn't in the book. But and it's again, it's not the book's fault, but I still wish it was there, like some speech about prevailing despite evil. But wasn't really there, and that kind of disappointed me. Also, there's a lot of like traveling around Rohan that was kind of unclear to me. Not too bad, but it was just like, wait, we're here now. Wait, now we're where? I was just kind of confused, but basically, I understood what was happening. They were just going around collecting people for the cavalry to be in the the army, the charge. So it wasn't that important. It's not that big of a deal that I wasn't really sure where they were going, but it was just something I noticed. All right, some more good stuff. Um, I the while okay, so I did miss Aragorn's speech at the Black Gate, but that scene was still very good, and the mouth of Sauron was very interesting. Um, yeah, I missed that part from the movie. I know that was filmed and just wasn't included, but yeah, I that the mouth of Sauron is very interesting, and kind of interesting how there's like dual manipulation. Not really. I shouldn't really say Gandalf was manipulating him, but it kind of, Gandalf was kind of poking holes in his story and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool. And how Gandalf is really the one that's like, I'm not scared of you guys. We're ready to die here, and yeah, bring it on, essentially. So that was cool. Um, I really enjoy Frodo and Sam's time in Mordor. Maybe not enjoy, but I feel like in my memory from the film, really I'm gonna be comparing this a lot to the film because this is my first time reading this book and I watched the film a lot before. But I feel like they didn't spend as much time in Mordor in the film as they do in the book. I don't know, I could be wrong. But I just really liked seeing Mordor and seeing how dark and dreary it is, even more so than the area outside of it. So, makes sense. But yeah, it's cool to see. Also, I think it is good that Sam put the ring on because it shows how desperate the situation was. He had no other choice. And yeah, it might have been an easy way to get out of the situation. Like, it's like, oh, okay, he's got the ring, put the ring on. But you have to understand, like, yeah, it's an easy out, but Sam is like dealing with a treacherous thing. It isn't a win. It is a loss that Sam gets in a situation so desperate that he has to put the ring on. That is a loss, not an easy way out. That's bad. Um, and also I like that we get more of the ring being used. Like, it kind of would have been a shame if we never saw the ring kind of used in that way again. How it was like so cleverly, how it was so cleverly used in The Hobbit. And yeah, so it was cool to see that, like that kind of Hobbit, like referring to the book, Hobbit-esque, Sam going around the like orc dungeons or whatever, orc caves and stuff. Yeah, great. And also, I love Gollum's character. Gollum, I mentioned it in the other video, but Gollum is probably the most interesting aspect of the book because it shows the danger of the ring while also showing that even people that seem completely too far gone have a chance of goodness. And yeah, I thought that was really beautiful. Even though his character is still tragic, which is realistic too. Like, just because someone can be good again or turn their life around or whatever doesn't mean they will, and that's really really realistic. And I think if Golem was not depicted in that way, the treachery and the danger of the ring would not feel as as important. This thing is not to be messed around with, or it's going to turn you into that. um yeah. So, kind of getting near the end. I know this video is long, but I got a lot to say. So, um, Here's another thing I didn't like. Sometimes it feels like Frodo and Sam get out of things too easy. I know that they're in a very difficult position. Uh, but anytime they have complications because of the orcs, the problem is primarily solved by the orcs just ending up killing each other, um, which feels easy. It just feels easy to me, you know? And I know the point is to kind of show how the darkness of the enemy even harms itself, but it pulls me out of the story a little bit when it's just like, okay, they kind of got really lucky, which is fine. That's totally valid, but it happens kind of frequently. And yeah, it isn't too bad because, like I said, there's justifications and explanations for why it happens like that. But it kind of reminds me of an issue that I have with The Hobbit, where characters do dumb stuff and get out of it with luck instead of like their own, you know, uh, like I don't know, like I don't know what I'm saying, but like instead of getting out of it by their own like actions, it's kind of just luck, which happens in real life, and that's fine. But it's not that bad. It's really not. This is very nitpicky, but it's something I noticed. Um, okay, going back to something I like. My voice is kind of going out because I've been recording these videos back to back, but you know it is what it is. I gotta do it. So yeah, I really like Fair. Oh, gosh, when am I ever gonna say his name right? I really like Faramir and Eowyn together. That even though it feels like an unrealistic fairy tale relationship where Faramir is just like, "Yo, I like you. Let's do that. Let's get together." You know. Um, it is kind of unrealistic where it's not like they don't really have a lot of time to build up a friendship beforehand, even though they actually do, because Eowyn does initially reject Faramir, and Faramir's just like, you know what, cool, but we'll be friends, and yeah, I feel like it is pretty good. Even it is kind of like fairy tale relationship, but I think it's done pretty good, and they just make sense together too. Like they really make sense together. And then also, like, they're two of my most favorite characters, especially human characters. And so seeing them end up together was just really cool. And then also, just Faramir is better than Aragorn. Sorry, I'm gonna say it again. I like him more, and yeah, I like how he treats Eowyn. Faramir's just a legend. Um, yeah, I he yeah, Aragorn gets so much love, I feel like, and I think Faramir deserves more because he's just the best. Yeah. If I would rather be more like Faramir than Aragorn, if that makes sense. Like I would look up to Faramir before I look up to Aragorn. So, yeah, be mad. um and um Okay, so I'm gonna go on my Aragorn rant now. This video is gonna be long, but I'm gonna do it. So, first of all, I had a really hard time caring about Aragorn's wedding. I know the information and the appendix kind of resolves that, but Arwen just comes out of nowhere. And in the story, it was really hard for me to care because the only like help was what I knew from the movie and how Arwen is depicted in the movie. But while reading the book, I was just like, God, just get on with it. I didn't care that much. I'm sorry. And then even after I read Arwen and Aragorn's relationship in the appendix, I didn't really like them that much. I didn't really find their relationship compelling at all because to me, Arwen is kind of just feels like an object, you know? Um, Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But you know, I get that Elrond wants, you know, his daughter. He sees his daughter above all humans, right? So the only human he would let his daughter be with is the king of Gondor. But that still just feels so superficial to me. And also, like, Arwen doesn't really initially care about Aragorn until he dresses a certain way. Like, until he is dressed by Galadriel or whatever. Um, and it just felt really superficial to me. I didn't really care about the relationship at all, even after the appendix. Um, it's sad what happens with their relationship, like how, Arwen has to watch Aragorn die, but it's only sad because that happening in general is sad, not because it's them specifically. I know this is gonna make people mad, some people mad, if anyone watches this, but it's just how I feel. I just really um, did not find their relationship that compelling, and I didn't find Arwen that compelling. I thought Arwen was way better in the films, because yeah, I don't know. And also, I thought Aragorn was better in the films, for many reasons. He just feels more human to me in the films, and yeah, I just like him in the films more. Like his speech and his relationship with Arwen feels more satisfying when they get married, because that is depicted as a part of him throughout the books or throughout the films, right? This is something he's thinking about. Whereas the books, it's just like, and Aragorn's getting married. It feels more like we gotta have a happy fairy tale ending instead of a satisfying like conclusion to something that Aragorn's been struggling with. And to me, that is depicted much better in the movies, in the films, and I'm worried I'm missing something, but that's just how I feel. I'm not saying I'm right or anything, or if you like the relationship in the books, that's totally cool, and I respect that, but I didn't. Sorry. All right, almost done here. Last few things. I really enjoyed everything after they leave Rivendell. I know I don't know. It could totally be me, but I didn't really. I think I was just ready for it to be done at that point, and I was already sad enough about Theoden, so I didn't feel that much about his like burial or whatever. But yeah, that part of the story until they get out of Rivendell, or actually when they're in Rivendell, is good because they talk to Bilbo and stuff, and that's kind of sad and good. Yeah, that part's good, but everything before, like between the wedding and Rivendell, I kind of didn't really like that much. I kind of just wanted to get on with it. But I like the stuff after Rivendell. I like the conflict with the Shire and Sauron was actually really interesting. I kind of thought I wasn't going to like it that much, but I liked it. The characters got to show they're different people now. And I love Merry and Pippin. I love the role they play. I love how they're kind of like these powerful hobbits, and rightfully so. Yeah, it's great. And I buy the relationship between Sam and Rosie. I really like their relationship because she's mentioned throughout the story. She isn't just blatantly thrown in there. And then also, like, Sam doesn't just love her, he loves like her whole family. He loves her father and her brothers, and he misses them just as much as he misses her when he's in Mordor and stuff. So that's really cool. And also, I'm really glad that Sam got Bag End. And man, it sucks. It really sucks that Frodo left. I knew it was going to happen, and initially my thought was going to be like, oh, God, Frodo, just deal with it. But I understand a little bit more, and it is really sad, but I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. And yeah, I like that they got to say goodbye. Yeah, so that's really it. That's all my thoughts. I know I said, I don't know, maybe the stuff I said wasn't unpopular. I feel like it might be, but that's just my honest thoughts. And yeah, let me know what you think. Feel free to disagree. Explain. If you do disagree with like specifically what I said about Aragorn and Arwen, explain, because I could be missing something. So yeah, let me know. Let's talk about it. And yeah, subscribe, like, and all that stuff. And yeah, that's it. I finished Lord of the Rings, and I will be going on to the Silmarillion next. Probably won't be doing like a video like this for the Silmarillion, but we'll see. And yeah, have a good day, I guess. Yeah, have a good day. See you next time.